I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, find a rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, oh. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone, and we're back. By popular demand, we are back for another full loaded transfer show on Loading Mag NUFC. Welcome all. We were kind of pushed to do potentially one on a Monday, but didn't feel right, did it? To kind of go out of the norm, unless there's a transfer breaking. But no, we're back in business. Welcome everyone to the channel, and obviously I'm joined by the boys. Boys, how are we?
All good, Peter. All good. Yeah, we've done a few shows around Tonali, so I think doing another one would have been a bit overkill. But I am good, Pete, and I am loving your shirt because that was my first Newcastle shirt that you have there. Now it did fall to pieces, and I think a few of my brothers got to wear it after me. But I must pick up a replica copy of that because I used to love that shirt.
Lee got me this a couple of years ago for my birthday. Yeah, it's he did say look after it, so I do wear it sparingly because it is in immaculate condition. So yeah, he's pulled it out of the bag with that one. But Richie, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Not a bad weekend. Quiet start of the week. Transfer building yesterday with obviously confirmation of Tonali coming through. It's just based. I think it's what's next, isn't it? That's that's why we're here. So,
what's next? Yeah, great segue. I think everyone's asking the question, what's next? And look, this is why we do the shows that we do, because got to give credit to Chris Hall here, because Chris Hall said happy birthday to our guest on Twitter not long ago. And he said on his tweet, we need to get you back on the show sometime soon. So we thought, why not get him on the show as soon as possible? And he's here. Transfer.com's own and Newcastle United follower of all things transfers and Newcastle related, Jacque Talbot. How you doing?
You're right, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate the birthday message as well the other day. I had a fair few of them, but it's good to be back on. It's been about a year, I think, or maybe a bit longer than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. It was if I remember rightly, it was a short stop as well, because I think something came up and you had to dart off, so we didn't get like a full show with you.
I was working a shift. I think I was working when I was working at the Daily Star, and I was doing an evening shift, and I kind of got my times mixed up. So I was like, I'll do half a show. Then I think I left after like half an hour, but I'll be around for the full one for this time.
Good stuff. And look, he's fighting through being a little bit under the weather, so we appreciate it even more, Jacque, the fact that you're with us tonight.
Thank you.
On the show and on the channel. Look, there's nowhere better to start, and I want to get your opinion on this, Jacque, from your perspective. He's here, signed, sealed, delivered. All the reports about all the other players can go to the side for just a second, because we have our first signing of the summer. Sandro Tonali from AC Milan, roughly around £55 million. He is officially a Newcastle United player. And look, he looks tremendous in that, albeit being a cartoon picture. He still looks great in it. And look, Newcastle tweeted out today. I don't know if we're gonna. Is it too early, Daz? Is it too early for another rendition?
Oh, people have to put the words in. We won't remember them otherwise. Yeah, actually, I've done my bit of singing. It's up to you guys now to follow that.
Yeah, we'll come back to Richie at the end of the show. Then we'll see. But yeah, he's here. Newcastle United have acknowledged him, and look, I think everyone's excited. But Jack, from your opinion, how big is this transfer of Sandro Tonali?
It came out of nowhere, didn't it? Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. He is. I mean, my colleague Carlo, who specialises in Serie A, and he said he's like the next big thing in Italy, under 21s captain of the country. There's been some stuff about, we overpaid and everything like that. But I think time will tell when you've got to put in the how factor of players who come in, how good he makes them. Like Gamara's, when he came from Lyon, was pretty good. He was pretty good, but How's turned him into something incredible now. He's got links to like Real Madrid and Barcelona. I can't say I know too much about him, but like he's got quite a high rating on FIFA, which is always good, isn't it? I think like size will. It's positive. It's a Champions League signing, isn't it? It's a Champions League signing. He's played with Champions League experience. I'm still a bit like miffed about where he's going to play. I know obviously in midfield, but I don't know if he's going to be ahead of Bruno or as a number 6 or where. Presumably one of those two. But yeah, signing.
No, it's a great point. And actually, it's a really nice segue into a different type of discussion that I wanted to have with all of you, really. But I think we need to do that super chat sound.
We do need to do that super chat sound. Where is it now?
Super chat received.
It came so early, we didn't know where it was on the list. But massive shout
to Nathan. Shout out to Nathan. Hey lads, hope you're well. Looking forward to the show. Nice one, Nathan.
Brilliant stuff. An early super chat, and super chats are open, as you can see. Nathan's put his in, and look, it's great to have you in the chat. Get a question in, Nathan, and we'll more than happily answer that question for you. But Jack, you made a really good point in terms of where is he going to play, and boys, I'm going to come to you with that because there is a lot of discussion around. And to be fair, we've had a discussion about this as well, about where is he going to play? Is he going to be a number 8? Is he going to be a number 6? Daz, in your opinion, where is he going to play? And ultimately, does it even matter?
Yeah, he can play as a 6, but he's more than a 6. He can play as an 8, but he's more than an 8. So yeah, where does he play? Does he take over the Longstaff position? But Longstaff has done so well for us as well, and we really missed him when he was out injured. Then the other thing is, do we switch formation and go 4-2-3-1 and sit Bruno and Tonali together? Also a good option if Bruno is ever missing. Remember that he missed about 6 games last season. We didn't win any of them when he was missing. So he was slot in there instead of Bruno, and we want to see him playing with Bruno. But yeah, so he'll sit well in a rotation as well, because we have so many games. We're going to need to mix it up. If we do stick with the same formation 4-3-3, then they'll be swapping and changing, and Joe will move out to the left for times. He's in midfield at other times. But where do you put him? I'd personally, and I think we'll know come the preseason games, I'd go to the 4-2-3-1 formation. I'd try that, but will Eddie Howe want to tinker with it that much? Remains to be seen.
Definitely. Great point, Daz. It does remain to be seen. And look, there's an argument of either position being a good position for him. Be interesting to know what you guys think in the chat. Where do you want him in the chat? Do you want him as a number 6? Do you want him as a number 8? Put it in the chat. Let us know what you think. But Richie, I'll come to you because I found this little pic on the screen, and it talked about this was a different opinion of where they saw the team setting up. Now I have to be honest. I have amended this slightly because the original picture had a picture of Maddison. So very quickly, I noticed and just rubbed him out. So he's not quite there. So we've got a gap on that left-hand side. But like, it seems to say and have the opinion that he's going to play on the right-hand side. But you know, what is your opinion, Richie, with regards to that? Is that the best position for him in your opinion, or you know, is there somewhere better in your opinion where we can get the best out of him, or has Eddie got a different plan?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me for a start if Eddie had a different plan. We've talked about this before the last few weeks. Who's to say that the formation we had last season is the formation we'll have this season? Obviously, you know, he hasn't been able to put a full squad together that of people he wants to bring in. He's had to work with a lot of the existing squad. So you pick your squad like around the formation on the players you've got, and you fit them in. But what you've got to also look at the mind is if you look at the ones that there was a brilliant video by Tifo yesterday on Tonali, which I think that if anyone hasn't seen it, go and watch it. It's fantastic. It obviously goes into the strengths, his weaknesses. Have we overpaid for him and stuff like that? But if you actually go into the depth of it, it's more about, you know, he reads the game really, really well. He's tactically very, very sound, and what he likes to do is he likes to battle with the opposition. He likes to win the ball back. He likes to press when we lose the ball. He's basically, I suppose the best way to do it is Eddie Howe is the dog walker. They've lost the ball. He's throwing the ball and he's saying, Tonali, just freaking go and get it. Get it back for us. And that's basically what he's wanting from him. He's wanting someone to retrieve that possession straight away. His stats around that are absolutely fantastic. And yeah, he'll probably play on that right-hand side, but we've said this before on the channel. It's probably not going to be set in stone. It's probably going to be a fluid midfield 3 or 4, however they're going to do it going forward. You'll probably see some drop to cover elsewhere while someone goes forward. You know, Bruno and Tonali can do that themselves. You know, you might even see Big Joe drop and hold and break up play, and the other two push on. There's just so many options for those three. But then you obviously got to take Joe Willock and you've got to take Shaw Longstaff into conversation and the equation as well. There's plenty of different options with those 5. And to be fair, we probably still need another midfielder because there's a lot of people being discussion today. I know a lot of people reacted to your thread today, Pete, about it, about what you mentioned, someone that we're going to mention a little bit further in depth later on in the show, no doubt, because apparently the team that we're interested in have now pulled out. So obviously it's leaving the door open for Newcastle. And people say we don't need another midfielder, but we do, because when you actually go depth, it's common knowledge. Eddie Howe wants 2 11s within the squad. And at the moment, 5 is not part of 2 if you play the 4-3-3. So that would highlight the fact that we do still need another midfielder.
Sorry, Richie, I was going to say you're totally incorrect there, because there's only one dog walker on our team, and that is Isaac. He knows how to walk a set of dogs, and long may that continue.
So basically what you're saying is, Tonali's the dogs that Isaac is going to take him for a walk, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Both of them together will be frightening. Let's be honest. On the same pitch together, they can dog walk together, and maybe we can get a picture of them walking side by side, and every team that we beat just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What I did forget, just before I think you might have a couple of things you want to say. But just before I do forget, what I was going to mention before I went to Richie is that obviously, Daz, you know Tonali really well, because way back when you said a little something on Tonali way before we were even linked. And if you haven't seen that, you need to check that video out. It is on the YouTube channel, so check that out. Daz's first, awareness, shall we say, of Tonali since the takeover. So great stuff on that. But look, we move on to kind of the next point, because we've talked about Tonali, we've talked about how excited we are about him, and it looks like look, Richie, we talked about this in our chat. This midfield here, it doesn't half look like a solid midfield, if that is to be the midfield 3. But Jack, just your opinion on this. Firstly, on that, is that in your opinion, Jack, one of the strongest midfield 3s in the Premier League?
Yes, I'd say so. I mean, looking from that graphic, it looks like all areas are covered, apart from, I can't see what that one says.
There's final third entries and passes into the
Well, we
opposition.
can use Trippier for that. That looks pretty good to me. In terms of like being the best, I mean, Man City are up there. Arsenal just got Rice. Liverpool got Sabotoy and McAllister. I think they're going to be hard, but certainly up there. I think it's just time will tell on him. I think it'll be good. I'm just interested to see what Howe does with it and how he implements it, because I like Joe Linton on the left wing sometimes, and have Willock there as the number 10. So it does look promising. And it's been mentioned before about the amount of games we've got next season. We've got another big competition on top of what we had last year, and we need to compete in that. So it might be spread out a lot more. So yeah, and I think you're right. Like getting another midfielder is pivotal, but it's all about how much money we've got. But Tonali, yeah, tremendous. And the fact he thinks he's only 23, so we've got 3 years time. That's when he's going to peak as well, which is pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Is that the midfield that starts for Newcastle United as it currently stands?
First game of the season, Eddie Howe. He won't start Tonali. He'll make him sweat and bring him on for the last 15 minutes and then play him for the rest of the season then or something like that. But yeah, no, that is I think that is our midfield for most of the season. The 3 for us, but we get a better picture in pre-season, really, I think, as we get towards the end of pre-season, because he'll mix it all up in the earlier games. But when we get closer, they haven't announced that tournament yet, the Stella tournament, so that's still going ahead. So I think around that time we'll see he'll have to show his hand a bit.
Definitely. Richard, you'd seen this as well. You'd seen this graphic that was on here. What did you want to mention about this graphic in particular with regards to the midfield?
I think, to be fair, the lads have already seen, especially Jacque, that every single aspect of that midfield 3 there pretty much covers every single dynamic that you want from your midfield. Obviously, but I know Jacque's just highlighted that touch at the top right-hand corner there of the circle, not being quite covered, but at the end of the day, Trippier could probably do that part there. So it just shows how much they overlap as well. If you look around the middle of it as well, as a lot of the colours over the colours and stuff. So there's a lot of attributes the same, but they've also got different attributes from each other as well. So that's why we were saying before about how it could be a fluid midfield 3, because they can allow and move forward and drop and do another part of the role occasionally during games and stuff like that. And that would be, if that was the starting 3 in against Aston Villa, first game of the season. I don't think anybody would turn that down going forward for the rest of the season. But as we said, we don't know, the window's still open until the end of August. That might not be your midfield 3. We do not know what's coming, but I wouldn't. That to me, just look at that picture, man. Seriously, that midfield 3, it's scary for bloody something. You've got 2 Brazilian nationals, as we talked about last week. They both started the last Brazilian national, and then obviously you've got the under-21 Italian captain coming alongside him, who's already got 14 caps at 23-year-old for Italy, and then there's probably a future Italy captain in his own right. We're talking leaders on the park and leaders in the middle of the pitch and all over the pitch. That's scary. It really, really is.
We'll stick on that point, or I'll say we'll hold that point around leaders. We'll come back to that in a second. But actually, it wasn't a question I planned to ask you, but I was just thinking about this because of some of the conversations that have been having, not necessarily with us, but on social media in recent days. We know that we lost out on James Maddison. We know that we kind of lost out on Dominic Szoboszlai as well. They've gone to opposition clubs, and there's been talk about not necessarily needing that type of player. But what's really interesting is that those type of players do the bit that we're missing in that image there. So if you look at that, and Jacque, you asked the question, what are those areas that we're not quite filling? Final third entries, passes into the opposition's half. Okay, they're the key positions that the likes of a Maddison and a Dominic Szoboszlai would fulfill in that position. So you're looking at it from that image and you think to yourself, because let's be honest, we've had other journalists Like, so Craig Hope and Luke Edwards and many others tell us, James Maddison's a luxury signing, Dominic Szoboszlai is a luxury signing. We don't need that type of player. That image right there tells you exactly what we need. And it's the one thing that we're missing right now. So, it does beg the question, is that something that Eddie Howe is looking at? I'm going to open that up to any of you, to whoever wants to answer that question. Is that something that it's clearly something that we need because it's missing in our midfield? But do you think that that's something that is a priority for Eddie Howe in this summer transfer window? Jacque, I'll come to you first, actually, with regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at Maddison and Szoboszlai, then you'd imagine a lot of creative number 10 who can also play on the wing. Someone like Mohamed Kudus would be an interesting one. In terms of priority, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Getting that creativity, and I think we struggled a lot when teams did like low blocks and stuff, like especially towards the end of the season. Just having a play can open it up would be wonderful, to be honest. And I'm not a huge fan of Isaac on the left. I think he's a great player, but I'd rather see him up front or like Wilson playing in between, kind of thing. You're trying to get me on screen.
I don't know what's happening.
What's happening? Someone is stuck.
I'm not touching anything. So I don't know what's happening.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think that it should be. I'd like to think it would be. Kudos, something like that would be pretty good. I'm not too hot on Harvey Barnes, but that could be an option. You never know. But yeah, I would say so.
Interesting. Boys, I'll ask you, is that something that you see? Now we've missed out on those targets. Do you think, Daz, I'll come to you on this, do you think that's an area that we will fill between now and the end of August?
Yeah, that's what we've all been thinking, and I know as the doors closed on Matters and stuff like that, we were wrecking our heads out going, who else could they look at? And we were passing back names back and forward for a day, and we came with a few, Ryan Cherky and Florian Wirtz as well, and a few more as well that we came up with. And yeah, there's plenty of options out there. Are there surprise package that Dan Ashworth will potentially work on it as well? Who knows? But I think we do need someone like that, someone creative that can unlock and get us in front of goal and banging them in. Really, it's what we're going to be missing. But does he focus on the strengthening the areas we definitely need strength, like the likes of left back? That needs to be done first, maybe in my opinion. And then the other thing is, will he look to sell someone before he are linked to bringing someone else and selling someone else on? And I'd like to see, it's pretty obvious as well from the graphic that come up on Sky that we do need to offload some players and we need to bring some cash in as well as the outlay, and we need to start selling. I know we don't have that many valuable assets that we're willing to sell on, but we have to look at that as well. We can't keep continuing the way we're going either with all this financial fair play.
Richie, I'll come to you with the same question. Do you believe, in your opinion, that we will sign a player that will fit that little extra that makes the difference in the midfield between now and the end of August? Or will we prioritise other areas? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Richie, let's see.
It's just my laptop's playing up. It's right. Can you hear us now? Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
yeah, my laptop's playing. I've just sent the messages. I'm gonna have to log back in and log back out in a minute. So, yeah, but regards the, I think what we're not necessarily go for possibly your number 10 sort of play. You might go for, that attacking winger sort of thing. Someone who's got a bit of flair and a creativity in them, because that's one of the things that we need. We had a lot of assists. You're looking from some set pieces and stuff like that, but you still need a player who can just unlock something with a nice, cute little pass. You saw some of the build-up play that Almiron and Bruno had during the season. Some of the through balls. You look at the through ball he played for Leicester on boxing. That was a hell of a goal. That through ball. Obviously the same one for the goal that Miggy scored at Fulham. They've got a good. You need something like that, and you can't just have it coming through through Bruno. You do need somebody else, because obviously if Bruno might be sitting a little bit back, Tonali, yes, we've seen through a lot of the, if you do your Dennis Wise and you go and do the YouTube clips, you'll see there's some fantastic assists in that package. But so he's got it in there as well. Whereas with Joe Linton, you wouldn't really class him as having that tiny little bit of flair that can come up with a creative, through ball or something like that. So you do need that someone who's got that in the locker. Like that was one thing. You look at James Maddison and Dominic Szoboszlai, they both had that in their locker. There's some of the passes, especially if you watch the German Cup final, Szoboszlai in that final, he was just exceptional. Some of the little set piece 1-2s, the set pieces he had on the through ball, seriously, some of it was absolutely exceptional. He's even got this no look pass that he has where it goes not even like where you can, it's in like a 90-degree radius. We're talking something that you can be looking to the right and he's spraying the ball to the side of the pitch. You need that unpredictability in the final third, and that's the difference between your Man Cities, your Arsenals, if you go off goals scored last season, to us. Obviously, I know we didn't concede them, but we didn't score anywhere near as much as what the top two did. So it's definitely the area where I still think we need to have an improvement in there.
Yeah, definitely. Jacque, I want to ask you this question. Why do you think we didn't go for Dominic Szoboszlai, in your opinion?
I think maybe they wanted to wait until the release clause deadline was over with, then try and negotiate with Leipzig. I feel that was probably it, and they probably didn't expect Liverpool to pounce. I don't think even their fans really expected them to meet the release clause and for things to get underway. Also, the player gave an indication he'd rather go to Liverpool and work under Klopp as well, so that's partly. I think there was certainly interest there. It was drummed up. I think it was broken actually by Sky Germany were the first to report on it. Newcastle just keep their cards really close to their chest. And then it was sort of confirmed, and Maddison was there as well. And then obviously, Liverpool just got it. I think would be putting in proposals now of 50 million euros if Liverpool didn't go for it, which I am pretty bitter about. I would have really, really liked him, to be honest. Like, I'm really not happy he's gone to Liverpool, but I know people have said, we're kind of been that interested because we didn't bid, but you don't bid unless you get an agreement from the player, an indication or encouragement from the club, and some sort of indication from the player that he wants to come. It's just unfortunate that Liverpool, he wants to work on the Klopp and stuff. So, but we'll get someone else, I'm sure. I haven't really left a window being really disappointed yet under this new regime. Maybe last January was a little bit so-so with Anthony Gordon, like, jury's out. We'll see what he does next season. But most of the time, I think, a lot of the time, the club get it right. And so I have faith. I'll be panicking if it's sort of like August 15th and it's like still sort of like this. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay. But I am disappointed about him not coming in.
Yeah, I can't lie. I fully expected this to get one of those two players. So it was a bit of a surprise for me personally that we didn't. But then you hear the interview with Dominic Szoboszlai, and there's talks of like Liverpool connections and tattoos. And, and you kind of think, were we really with the chance was Liverpool was sniffing around? I don't know. But look, it's been and gone now. There's other players that we will target, and look, we can talk about some of them now because things are seemingly hotting up with various other players. And you've talked about one of them, Jackson. I'll allow you to talk about him a little bit more. And it's Harvey Barnes. Yourself have reported that Newcastle back in the race for Harvey Barnes, obviously reported by the Mail as well, looking at around sort of 35 million. The Chronicle have reported on it too. And also Mark Douglas has talked about Harvey Barnes being back on the radar. This is all in the last sort of 24 hours. From your opinion, is this Newcastle back in the race effectively for Harvey Barnes, or is this just kind of a like one or two other deals, like a moment in time?
I think it's like you can have, if you're a club and you can have a list of 100 players that you like, I'm sure Harvey Barnes is in like the top 20 players they admire, they quite like. And so when a reporter asks who you're interested in, they say Harvey Barnes, but whether they make an active pursuit of him is another matter. it makes a lot of sense. I think it's no secret Eddie Howe likes Premier League players and Premier League experience, but I'd argue that all our best players under the new regime have come from abroad, including Trippier, Isaac, Guimaraes, Botman, all come from with no Premier League experience bar Trippier. So, yeah, I'm sure there's interest there. I think we're going to probably hear a surprise name soon, would be my guess. I don't think they're just going to go for Harvey Barnes. I think there's a fair few other clubs interested as well. I think Villa have been reported as looking at him. Is Everton there? Probably Everton's there as well, of Harvey Barnes. So, yeah, it's not one that'll blow my socks off, to be honest. But you'd obviously get behind him and that. And, again, it's like, what could Howe do for him? But I prefer my exotic signings. I like to, I'm going to see like a big Bundesliga star or someone from, I know we've got a Serie A star or like some cool name from La Liga or something rather than Harvey Barnes. But I don't really know what I'm talking about, I guess. So, yeah.
Does Harvey Barnes float your boat? Is he a player that you would like to come in for Newcastle? It says, as reported by the Mail, and obviously Jack talked about it as well, 35 million. There was talk, and I think I had a conversation with you in our chat, and I said Leicester are looking probably with 2 years left in his contract more towards the 50-60 million mark. What do you think is a fair reflection of a price? But more importantly, would you take it?
Yeah, when I saw that, we had that chat yesterday, I think. When I saw the 50 million, I said, keep him. No way do I want him at that price. But for 35 million, I'd consider him. And I do rate him. I think he's a very good player. He can do the same kind of job that Gordon does as well, though. I'd rather strengthen the left back and go for someone different, someone that can offer something different instead of him. But the 35 would be the high end of what I'd pay. I know we paid 40, 45 for Gordon, but 35, yeah. I'd look for 30, 35. I'd be trying to buy, or even to try and do some kind of a swap deal or something with Leicester, because they're building for to get out of the championship now. So there may be something that could, I don't know who, but there might be something that could mix and match with there. But yeah, I would like to see him rock up, but not. I don't know if he even make my top 20, Jack, of players to go for. But yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, Richie, that says he's a good player. 14 goal contributions in a relegation side. Not bad stats considering, but I'll ask you the same question. Is he a player that you would want to bring in to Newcastle as a priority this summer?
I wouldn't say as a priority. I think it's one of those ones you look at and you go, does he enhance your squad? Yes, he does, right? But is there targets out there who we should be looking at who are, as Jack said, you do like that foreign import coming across, or someone who's, let's say, a big six, the old big 6 team, when it's like, you look at them and go, oh, he'd be good to sign for Newcastle. I think, it's interesting because this is another player we discussed at the weekend that we put in the chat, and you look at Jadon Sancho. Obviously, you look at the Jadon Sancho at Dortmund, and he was like on fire. His skill set is phenomenal as a winger. Has he been, all that in Man United? No. Is that been down to the fact he struggled with the move? Has it been down to the dressing room? Or what's been on? Has it also been good? Who's been the coach? We don't know. But I would still be more, intrigued, and I think there's more positive about it if we were to go for Sancho than if we went for Harvey Barnes. I just think there's more excitement, there's more potential there. You mentioned Harvey Barnes, and it's like, yeah, fantastic. As I said, it's your squad gets better, but it's not one that, he's not a player that gets you off your seat sort of thing, especially for the type of player he is. And as Daz said, he is a very similar sort of mold to what Anthony Gordon is. And yes, we paid a little bit more than what probably Harvey Barnes is now, but we bought him in a January window, which is usually more expensive and hard to deal with anyway. You usually have to overpay to get a player in the January window. So for me, it's just too much like for like, and there's other people out there who I'd much prefer to come in. But as I said, yes, he does enhance the squad, but just other priorities first for me.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, especially for the price that we're likely to pay. Well, the one thing I'll add is that I think in the last 3 seasons he's got double figures in goals every season that he's been in. So he does add something that we don't currently have with our our attacking wingers. Miggy is the standout really, because this season he got 11 goals. But we don't tend to get goals from those wide positions, and it's something that he could definitely offer. The one thing I'll say from speaking to Leicester fans, he is inconsistent, and that's something that is something that's a problem when we are in the position where we don't want that inconsistency. We want players.
We've got it already, Pete. You look at Almiron; he's probably the most. People will hate me. People say this. People will say that about Saint-Maximin as well.
No, it's true though. Yeah. It's true. He's inconsistent. Murphy will have purple patches, but again, inconsistent. But Gordon is exactly the same. Like all of our wingers show moments where you think, wow, like that's quality. But equally, they'll show moments in games, more than one, plural, where they're not performing, and that is the biggest problem.
I think the example of what we're trying to say, Pete, is when you're looking for people to go, I'm not saying we go for this person because we'd never get him, but you want the sort of a winger that's a bit in the sort of ilk of Marcus Rashford. You look at the goals and the contributions, assists that he's brought in. He had a very, very a small patch where he wasn't on fire. I think it was pretty much after when the Carabao Cup was, I think it was. But if you look all the way around that, his season, Marcus Rashford, under Ten Hag, was phenomenal. And that's what the sort of output, I'm not even necessarily to the extent he had, because he had a phenomenal season. Even if you got, say, 80-90% of what Rashford, it's a hell of an improvement of what you've got now. And that takes you to the sort of the goal contributions and goals that you need to get to the Man Cities and Arsenals where we were lacking this season.
Yeah, fair point. Go on, Das. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll finish on Harvey Barnes. The thing that confuses me about him, I always thought he was younger, but yeah, he's 25, so not the best age. Good age, but not the best age. But
he's still a great age.
He's still a great age. Yeah, we'd all love to be 25. Yeah, but a few things, because I will forget them otherwise. One is we never set our target for likes. We want 400 likes for tonight's show. You haven't let us down so far. We want 400 likes. Smash that like button.
350 in the chat currently.
You can do it. You can do it. Also, then a shout out to Harry, who was in the chat, especially at the start of the show. So Harry was our prize winner from last week in the members draw, and I don't have the picture on the system, but he purchased a kit for his son. So Chris has sorted that out with Harry, and congratulations again, Harry. We will have another members draw tonight. I have the wheel ready to go, and also something that we couldn't see ourselves on the show, because you can't see it in StreamYard, but the people in the chat alerted it to us, and it's a shout out to Stephen Fairburn, who donated 5 memberships to David Cook, Drew, Derek Sharp, Aaron Robson, and Stevie T78 there on our last show. I think it was last Thursday. So nice one, Stephen, for that. We can't view that when we're live, but we do appreciate that, and I'm sure all the people in the chat as well. I know they gave you great comments at the time, but thanks for that, Stephen. But let's crack on with the show.
Amazing stuff. As always, you guys in the chat make the show fantastic stuff. Keep getting your questions in. There are some questions that we'll bring to Jacque in just a little while, but we'll move forward to something and talk about a different position, because something popped up tonight which sparked our interest that want to talk about a little bit more, and it's this ongoing in the last couple of weeks interest in Joachim Andersen, centre-back at Crystal Palace, was formerly on loan from Lyon to Fulham. Crystal Palace then signed him permanently, had a good season last season. The Chronicle have talked about it, that there was interest with or in him, but obviously one of the club in the top 6 is interested also. But it was Ed Aarons, I believe, of The Guardian that mentioned that Newcastle are showing serious interest in Jacque Anderson. One of the top 6 team interested as well, not been named as of yet, but looking around a £40 million deal. Jacque, so come to you. Jacque Anderson, what do you know with regards to that deal, and what do you make of as potentially pursuing another right-sided centre-back?
Yeah, we did a story a couple of weeks ago, and the fact he could come in to sort of compete with Shah. They're quite similar players, I suppose, ball-playing centre-backs. They've got a good ability to spread long balls and stuff like that. But I think with Premier League moves, in-house Premier League moves, the price is always just going to be way too high. And I think if he was 23, it might be a bit more of a goer, but I think he's 27. And £40 million Palace have asked for. I can't see it. I can't see it personally. And I don't know if he'd want to come to Newcastle if he's going to play play behind Shah next season. I appreciate, we've got Champions League as well, and he could get a good stretch of games there. But I suppose it's an indication of what the sort of player Newcastle are looking at. Someone who can play on the right side, sort of supplement Shah. But yeah, I can't see Newcastle willing to spend £40 million on 27-year-olds who would come in as relatively a bit of a backup, really.
Interesting. But boys, this one picked up as well a little bit of momentum. But Daz, do you want to come to something first?
Yes, I think we have to, as per our rules.
Super chat received.
And this one comes from Will. And Will says, for me, we need a left back and a right centre back before any winger striker. Especially now we know Gordon can be 9 as well as a winger. And cheers to that, Will, as well, by the way, for the Super Chat donation.
Definitely. But we're talking about the right centre back position now. So look, I'll come to you on it. Jack's just talked about the right centre back position and talked about Jacque Anderson. What's your opinions on this? Is it the position that we need to strengthen? Is Jacque Anderson the right person for you, Daz, that we should be targeting?
Well, you know what? We've been talking about him for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I know very little about him, and I haven't brought myself to do a little YouTube search on him. So he's not doing it for me, he's not sexy enough for who I want to bring in this window. But no, look, I haven't really don't know an awful lot about him. But as Jacque alluded to, and I think it's the age as well that puts me off. If we're spending that kind of money on someone, I want them to be like, I know he's Premier League experience, but I want them a bit younger, to be around a little bit longer, and be adaptable to play kind of second fiddle-ish to Shah, because Shah would still be our number one. That's the kind of player we want, with someone a bit younger that will oust Shah, let's say, but not just take him over straight away, because we need big money for that. So that's just my thoughts on him. I think it's one that it won't happen, really.
£40 million potentially, a lot of money, Richie. Is he worth it? I know you know a little bit about Jacque Anderson. What are your thoughts?
Do you know what? It's funny because I remember when we did all of the match day lives and during the lockdown and stuff that season, and he was at Fulham then, and we didn't just obviously watch Newcastle because there wasn't much to do. We were watching a lot of football then, and Jacque Anderson was obviously at Fulham at the time on loan from Lyon, and I remember saying several times. I remember having a good conversation with Chris Hall on this, and I said he's just. I don't understand why we don't go. I think he's very, very underrated. And I know, as you know, Jack said, he probably isn't that sexy sort of, guy you want to come in and take over from Fabian Shah. He's probably slightly a little bit better than Shah, but I think when you start talking 40 million, you want to be getting someone who's head and shoulders above Fabian Shah, and then Shah becomes what Jamal Lascelles has been this season, so I think he's back up. And I just don't think 40 million's right. But however, it would be interesting with the situation Palace are in. Obviously, Palace have just lost Zaha, which is obviously we know has got a few different options on the table and won't be going there. Obviously, we found out last week Michael Olise has got a really bad hamstring injury and he's going to be out for a while. So do Palace need the money for elsewhere in the team? So that obviously their attack and threat have pretty much, they've just gone, because I don't think anyone really looks at Jordan Ayew and goes, wow, dangerous there. Eberechi is it? Yes, good player, but could he carry the attack and threat of Crystal Palace going forward for the start of the season? You've got Edouard as well, who he's all right, but as I said about Ayew, he's not really that one you turn on and go, better keep an eye on him tonight, lads, is he? So I think you've got to look at, if you were just even be cheeky enough to put say like a £20 million bid in for him, right? Is that sort of where he is for that age, and is that 20 million where they're going to start to concentrate because they need to reinvest that money elsewhere? But for me, 40 million, not at that price for him. I would probably say 25 tops him. 27, he's just that wrong side of great age, but he's still got years. He's got years on Shaw and Lascelles, so it's that's a positive. But it's a lot of money, as Dad said. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely, it is a lot of money. I think there are other centre backs out there that we can get for that sort of price. That's for sure. But look, it's one that might well rumble on. And look, Jacque, I imagine you'll be keeping abreast of all things that are going on, Jacque Anderson related, and will report it to us as we hear it. Interestingly, there has been a tentative link with his centre-back partner, Mark Gay. Now, for me, he is a player that I would definitely look to sign. Now, he predominantly plays on the left side of defence, but he is right-footed, so he could potentially play on the right-hand side of the centre-back position. Yeah. Again, it is a tentative link. Lee Ryder of the Chronicle reported on it, that they were looking at that. Is the centre-back position somewhere that we should be prioritising in this position? Because you look at, the reason why I say this is you look at Botman and Shaw, they were so good last season, but do we need to strengthen it just in case they don't have the type of seasons that they had last season? And the reason why I say that is because they were pretty much fit all season, which is amazing for us, but it's not always guaranteed. What do you think about that, Daz? Like from that position, is it that priority that we need to get centre back in?
Well, to answer that, Pete, I can immediately strengthen the centre back pairing, or the options of centre back, by bringing in a left back, because then you'll move Dan Burn into that centre back rotation period there. So definitely for me, left back has to be sorted this window. It's too risky, going into a season, especially in Champions League. Dan Burn, I don't want to see that. But I think it's for a right centre back. It's on my list, but it's a lower priority. I'd rather the left back position first, then a young attacking player that can kind of play wing / up front, that can be and doesn't mind being used in a rotation, because as we said before, it's the whole Wilson Isak situation. Wilson could get injured fairly easily, and we just got lucky last season. He lasted most of the season, so. Yeah, there's priorities, and it's lower down my pecking order. Is what I'm trying to say.
Would you? In fact, you know what? I'm going to switch over to this, because this is a player that has been reported from transfer.com, Jacque, and I'll come to you with regards to this, and it is Goncalo Inacio from Sporting Lisbon. I think, no, sorry, from the Football Insider, in fact, but I know we talked about it before we went live, that it was a player that you were aware of. Peter O'Rourke has put the story out in the last couple of days that we are interested in him. What are your thoughts on that, and is that a realistic target for us?
Really, really is. He's young. His release clause is below 40 million quid, I think. I think he's 21. He is left-footed, but he can play either position in a central midfield. central defence, and also as a left back as well. I'd love to get him, to be honest. And also, well, I think Liverpool are interested as well, but I don't know if they do it again, snatch one from us. But I think it'd be great. And I have heard as well, there's been some things about Newcastle looking at the Portuguese market quite a lot recently. So it's no surprise to see his name come out. But he'd be mint, 21 years old. I think he's 21. It could be 22. Relatively cheap, as I say, versatile, left-sided. Because I like to see not Dan Burn play left back next season, but for the same system to be implemented. Not to have a 6'7" guy bombing up and down the wing, but someone who can play centre back and is a bit of height and isn't like a Rinan Lodi or something like that. I like to keep the same system and get someone who's perhaps a little bit more versatile than Dan Burn, but certainly not just like a 5'7" wing back kind of thing on the left. I like to keep that. So I'd really like to see him come in. He makes a lot of sense and be relatively cheap considering with the release clause that's there.
Definitely. Richie, I think you'd mentioned or you talked about in the episode before. I think we've had conversations on him before. There's a lot of teams that are monitoring him though. Is this a case where we could potentially get into a bidding war with a player like this? Because as Jack said, he is a supremely talented player, 21 years old, he almost fits the profile of what Newcastle United are looking for.
He does. He ticks all the boxes, and unfortunately, he ticks the boxes of a lot of other teams, as you've just said, Pete. And I think the problem is for some reason it's we've discussed this before. And it was very similar when Eddie Howe came in. There wasn't that much of a furore when Eddie Howe came in, but if you were turning around and thinking it was Nagelsmann coming at Newcastle with a title win, and everyone would have been through the roof because similar age, as they've got similar capabilities as coaches. But sometimes it's like with this, if you look at Inacio, everybody looks at the Portuguese market as Jack's just said, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, he's the next big thing. He's this, that, and the other." And sometimes it's like you don't necessarily look at it. You go back to Mark Gee. There seems to be a lot more people talking about Inacio than there is Mark Gee. And I think for me personally, I'd prefer to go with Mark Gee at this moment in time. I just, he's already in the England setup.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he's probably going to cost a similar sort of amount to what Inacio is, and he's already established in the league, and you know what you're going to get. And he's a rock solid centre half. Whereas, yes, he's got all this potential in the world, as everyone keeps going on about. But is he the next Ruben Diaz sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? We don't know. That's always a risk when you buy from even though like a non-top 5 league. Do you know what I mean? Which the Portugal league is, but it's interesting about what's going on. And do you know what? If he came in, I wouldn't be disappointed because I think Eddie Howe would work wonders with him, which he has with the rest of the squad. It's just I would still prefer Mark Gee. And to be fair, there's still other targets out there for the centre-back market who I think Newcastle could potentially look at still, who we've talked about on here before over previous transfer windows, which haven't really been brought up again. But that might be for another day. I don't know. But look, it's not one I would turn my nose up if he was to come through the door.
Definitely, Mark Gee is one for me that I would look to go for. The only problem is that having spoken to D from the Crystal Palace channel, he has put a price on Mark Gee, and he doesn't believe he will leave Crystal Palace for anything less than 80 million.
Give away.
Yeah,
you can imagine the likes of Dan Potts and Lawless and all the rest of it that reacted to that. It was just full of laughter emojis on the back of that. But that's what we were going to say. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think apologies, D, and I think I met D, and he's a nice guy, but he's a bit deluded. He's also talking about Matheus Franca as well as to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, come on! You could be fighting relegation this season. I'm sorry, but no, it's not happening. And Roy's back in for another go as well. But no, sorry, D. I don't think you're barking up the wrong tree there.
I think you've got to realistically look at. You're probably looking at 40 million for around Gate. That's probably about a realistic sort of price. He's only 22-year-old. Do you know what I mean? And he's an England international already. That's a fair price for me, with 3 years on your contract left. So 80 million giveaway.
Yeah, David Cook's put in the chat, D is deluded, and yes, he is very much so. We are aware of that, but he does come out with little nuggets of good opinions now and again. But look, Daz, do we need the music again?
Oh, I think we need the music. Yeah, hang on. I'll have to find it then after that.
Super chat received.
Yes, now there was another super chat, and I think it was from Skeffington Mag. Yes, it is. Cheers, Skeffington Mag. All helps towards this amazing channel. Thanks very much. Oh, man. Thanks for the donation, Skeffington Mag. Also, Stephen is back again, and I see him. He wants to give away more memberships. I think his memberships last for a month, but it will get you into a few of our member draws. So they're value. You can win a prize up to about 75 quid for the club shop. So all valuable. And thanks, Stephen, for being so generous to our chatters.
Definitely, all appreciated as well. And I just dropped a picture in the brand as well. Hold on. Mr. Amos, who's watching the channel right now, he's just tweeted us loading mic NUFC on the big screen. So he's watching us on the big screen tonight. Massive thanks to you for putting that out on social media. Brilliant to have you in the chat. Put a question in there. We'll get to that very, very shortly to ask Jax lots and lots of questions, all Newcastle United related. Over 400 in the chat. Yeah. Right now, Daz, go for it. Sorry,
no, that's what I was going to say. I was going to do a Chris Hall and go get where he has that thing hidden. Here it is, and smash that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And the subscribe, if you subscribe as well, it will enable you to get in the chat. So do that, and yeah. 36% of our viewers watch us on the TV, but so make sure you're logged into your Google account or on the TV, so that'll enable you to hit that like button. So yeah,
definitely another super chat in as well, Daz.
You're ahead of me.
Yeah, it just popped up now. So I don't know if you want to.
Here we go. You get the music.
£10.
Thank you to Ian. Normally watch on the telly, but on the PC tonight. Keep up the good work. And Daz has just talked about that.
Received.
Cheers, Ian.
Brilliant stuff. And yeah, put a question in about transfers if you wish with the super chats. And look, we'll answer those questions straight away as priority because you guys are super chatting the channel right now. Look, one player. Before we get to some questions that I wanted to talk about, interesting, new link from my perspective. It's Reiss Nelson. Reiss Nelson has been linked with Newcastle the last few days. Looks to be surplus to requirements for regards to Arsenal. Had some moments last season where he come on and make a difference. Transfer.com reported it. Steve K9 reported that we may well be looking at Reiss Nelson in terms of a possible move. Do you know anything about this, Jax? Do you know whether this is something that could be potentially firmed up with Newcastle United in the weeks to come?
I uploaded his story to the site, but other than that, I don't know. But yeah, Steve's pretty good. I think he's one of the first to mention Calvin Phillips, and then that was sort of. I think even Luke Edwards said that as well recently. So, yeah, it might be something in it. He's a good Arsenal line. He really does have a really good Arsenal line as well. I'm sure he might be a player that Newcastle might like. But at the same time, I don't know. I think we'll be looking like maybe to go get someone else in beforehand. I think he's probably going to sign a contract at Arsenal. He's not actually at Arsenal anymore. He's a free agent. Yeah. So it's supposed to be quite a good player. I don't know too much about Reiss Nelson, really, other than he's just been at Arsenal for about 8 years. But other than that, I don't really know. But I don't know. Maybe like to come in later in the window or something after we get a couple of marquee signings in. But no, I have no insight on that. I wish I did, other than uploading the story.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He had a spell in Germany. I think it might have been Hoffenheim that he went to, but he did well there. And then he's come back to England, and it just hasn't seemed to go right since he come back. Now, I don't know. Look, Daz, I come to you. I don't know if you've seen much of Reiss Nelson. To be fair, a lot of his business this season has come off the bench. It's come late on in games. But, like, is this a player, again, that we're looking at, not necessarily a first choice replacement? Is it a squad player that you would take at Newcastle? Reiss Nelson looks to be on a free transfer.
Yeah, that was my question that I was going to ask. Is it a free transfer? So, and if he is a free transfer, yes, I would look at him. I haven't seen that much of him. I know I've seen him when Arsenal would have thrown out the young guns, I suppose. But he doesn't spring to mind. But yeah, to build up a squad player, but we need a bit of depth. And so yeah, a younger option to have. And look, that's worked for us in the past. Look, we've had Hayden. Remember, came through the Arsenal from Arsenal, and he did a job for us for a while. We're in a different situation now, but still, we still need some squad players to get on. So yeah, I'd consider it. Actually, I'm laughing because there's an awful lot of people are looking at Stephen's offer, and Ian is saying he's the last. Simon, yeah, it's well, I'm a lady in the high-pitched voice, and there's a few more. Where are they gone? Oh yeah, Dave as well. I'm definitely last. So there you go. Spoiled for choice there, Stephen.
Well played, lads. Well played. I love that. That is brilliant. Memberships for everybody. That's what we say. Oh, that is brilliant. One thing I wanted to come to you, Richie, on with regards to Reiss Nelson. First of all, of course, how much do you know about him? Would you take him, particularly on a free transfer? What was really interesting is I spoke to Potts the other day. I was on his channel, and I couldn't believe what he said. He said that Reiss Nelson is on 100 grand a week.
If that's the case, it's lunacy, really, isn't it? To be fair, because he's going to be, even if he moves on to his next club, he's going to want the same wage. But has he actually deserved, or that sort of wage? Realistically, I think what you've seen him, you'd be looking at no more than 20 grand a week. I think at a push. You know what I mean? But because for me, his career, it sort of mirrors what Joe Willock's did at Arsenal. Where obviously he was in and around the squad. He got the odd European game and like Europa League and all that sort of stuff. And obviously then he came on loan to Newcastle. He went to Hoffenheim, then a couple of seasons later he went to Feyenoord for a year. But obviously he hasn't done enough to kick on to make one of the moves permanent, perhaps. And I don't know. He just seems to be always around the squad, but never essential. To be fair, it's like, on a free, it's a no-brainer, realistically. When I don't know if anybody saw the game at the Emirates between Arsenal and Bournemouth. I think me and Pete were actually talking about this as the game was going on.
I think we were watching it live together.
We were watching. Actually, we were talking about. We couldn't believe
not together.
Oh no, but we were just
separate. We were watching it
virtually together.
Yeah, don't get any ideas, people.
No, there was definitely two TVs involved and 200 miles difference. So, but you said we were watching that. We couldn't believe he absolutely transformed that game when he came off the bench, and it was a fantastic 3 points. And the goal he scored, in stoppage time to nick it, was a phenomenal finish. So he's got it in his locker as well. It'll be interesting to see because obviously. I think, Marty's just put that in the chat and it's just been started. He's very, very good friends with Joe Willock. So, on that sort of thing as well, it's really, really interesting that, it's the likelihood is that he probably will sign a deal with Arsenal, but, it's one to watch, I think, because especially how everyone keeps going about FFP and stuff like that. This is one to watch as the window goes on, for sure. Because, as I said, yes, okay, there's no transfer fee, obviously. He'll want a sizable sign-on fee, obviously, but the good thing is it's not going to be anywhere near what the transfer fees because he can't really demand that high a sign-on fee, realistically, for what he's achieved so far. But he's got so much potential uptake, and that's what what you see in little dribs and drabs. If he was to deliver that on a week-to-week basis, which I believe he could under Eddie Howe, could it end up possibly one of the best Premier League free transfers if that was the case? If he delivers on the potential he's got under Eddie Howe at Newcastle.
23 years old.
Great
Great
age.
Didn't even need to say anything more. I just put in the finger, you boys, you guys. It is a great age. You're absolutely right. But the key to the point is exactly what Marty said in the chat, and what you mentioned, Richie, as well, is that he's good mates with Willock, and someone like Reiss Nelson should be looking at Willock as an example of what he's done since he's left Arsenal, since he's left the club. He's gone on and made his own name. He's actually made his name bigger since he left Arsenal. And there's always seems to be this obsession of staying with Arsenal for as long as possible, because as long as you stay with Arsenal, you're a name. Joe Willock's booked the trend because he's come to Newcastle and he's made himself a name in his own right. And I tell you what, in my opinion, or if he'd have not picked up his hamstring injury when he did, I think he'd have been in this England squad that was playing just in the out season. I think, he's clearly just recovering from his hamstring injury. It was clearly a bad one at the time. We could see that. But I genuinely believe he would have been in the England squad. And I think come September, if he starts the season well, I do believe he'll be in that squad there.
It's interesting to follow up on that, because obviously I don't know if anyone else saw on social media. I know there was a bit of Twitter hoo-ha where you only see so many tweets over the weekend, so you might not have seen it, but there was a post put on about a screenshot about Reiss Nelson on Instagram about Joe Willock's move to Newcastle, where he said about go and show yourself to be the player you can be. It's your time to shine, sort of thing. Now, it'd be interesting to actually to say if he listens to his own advice, to one of his mates, whether he would do that and then think, do you know what? I've got to do it. I can't just sit on my arse and what if? I've got to go and take a chance at some point in your career. And as we said, 23, it's free agent. It's a pivotal point in his career where he's got to decide which way his career wants to go.
I don't agree that he should sign a new deal at Arsenal.
Nah.
Never going to get the minutes there. He's never going to get the opportunity to develop his career in the way that I think his ability deserves. I watched quite a bit of him when he was at Hoffenheim, and I genuinely thought with the way that he played at Hoffenheim that he would go to Arsenal and be a first-team starter. And all they did is just chuck him back into the squad and say, you can come on now and again, cut games, and they just kept him in the same mold that he was before after an impressive performance in Germany. And it just goes to show at that point, if I'm him, I'm thinking, I've got no future here. I've got no future at this club. So moving to Newcastle, where you're working with Eddie Howe, you're working with Joe Willock, and the rest of the players that are doing the business at this moment in time, playing Champions League football. So he's not like he's coming into a team that's a Palace or a Wolves or another team that are down there at the bottom end of the table. He's coming into a team that's playing Champions League football, potentially.
The other thing you got to think is, why would he sign another contract when you've got Martinelli ahead of you, realistically, on that left-hand side. You've got, who else? Trossard's just coming from Brighton as well. And then you've also had, if you can play in that 10 role as well. So, okay, you've got Odegaard who plays there. You've also now got Havertz has been signed as a potential number 10 as well. Where does he fit in? He doesn't fit in that long term. He needs to move on. If Newcastle wasn't the case, of the team we've already mentioned before would probably be an ideal fit from where you could go and show, and obviously the person, and that would be someone like Crystal Palace, because they need that. He's going to get the game time week in, week out. But you know what I mean? But also, if you look at Newcastle, you look at how many left wingers have we really, you could say, is nailed on the place, because there's talk about Allan Saint-Maximin going. You've got Joe Linton, who's not really left winger. He can play there, but you wouldn't say he's out and out there. And then everybody else is people who can play there. They aren't out and out, left forward sort of thing. So he's got somewhere he can come in and nail it on. Obviously, Anthony Gordon's come in, but we've said to him he can play anywhere along the he's so versatile. So you could look at him on the right. We don't know, but he's got more potential going forward at Newcastle than he would ever at Arsenal. It's just a no-brainer. If he gets advised off his agents to re-sign there, he needs to turn around and basically just say, look, he needs to hire a different agent, because they're not looking after his career. That's just literally a payday.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on as that materialises. I do hope that even if he doesn't come to Newcastle, he goes somewhere else to play his football, because I do think he's actually a really talented boy. He's just staying at the wrong club. But look, at this point now, I can see we've got 32 questions starred. Let's fire some questions at Jacque for all things Newcastle United transfers or players in general. What we got for him?
Yeah, I'll focus on the ones that's specifically for Jacque first, and we'll revert around it again. So, from Lisa, question for Jacque. Has he heard any rumors on us signing another Italian player to be buddies with Tonali?
David Santon. That's all I've heard. No, I have no. I think it's quite unique, isn't it, getting an Italian player over to the Premier League? No, unfortunately, not at the moment. Maybe Wilfred Gnonto at Leeds. I think he's been admired, hasn't he? So that's it.
So you're ruling out Chiesa.
Good mates as well, those were for the 21s as well, Gnonto and Tonali.
Well, there can be something there, a bit of a dynamic going there, yeah. But yeah, nothing I've heard recently anyway.
Sorry, as I cut you off, if you want to mention that name again, because I know it's a name that I really like.
No, the one I was going to say is, so you're ruling out Chiesa then, Jacque?
Chiesa, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think Juventus might want to sell him.
Yeah. He's not going to turn up at Villa, though. I heard talk of Villa. That doesn't sit right for me.
The pride that I have, just relaying this to you now, Daz, is that apparently Villa put a bid in for Chiesa. And Chiesa said that he doesn't want to go to Villa because they're not at the level that he wants to play at. So if Villa watching right now,
here each other as well.
Hope you well. Hope you well. Hope you tweet this.
Right, next one for Jacque. Jacque, how likely is it we won't sign any more midfielders and give more minutes to Elliot Anderson and Lewis Miley?
I'm sure they'll get more minutes, but I reckon they'll get another midfielder in. It just depends whereabouts. It'll be a number 10, number 6, I reckon. So, yeah, I don't think they're just going to rest on their laurels and be like, right, we'll give the kids loads more minutes next season. I think they've got to act on it. I think getting Champions League is going to be harder next year, and I think they've got to really strike while the iron's hot this time round. So I imagine another midfielder will come in. But it just depends who. I think with sponsorship stuff and, I know there's been like newspaper reports about only spending X amount, but it's quite normal for clubs to do that early on. All clubs are at that sort of saying, oh, we're skin and all this kind of thing. I think we'll see a bit more movement towards the end of this month, coming into August as well. So I won't worry too much. But definitely start panicking when it gets like middle, like August and that, and there's no one kind of thing. But it should be all right.
Cool. Next one, Jordy 2 for life, and he likes to give a bit of scope in your answer to this one. So he asks, question for Jacque: if you were manager of Newcastle and you had 50 million to spend on one player, who would you buy and why?
That's a really good question, isn't it? Who would I buy? I think probably I'd go 50 million. I'll probably have change for this as well. Kepler and Thuram. I'll probably get Kepler and Thuram, have a bit of change. I think I'll get him in as a number 6. I know he doesn't play there traditionally, but the sort of a rotational number 6 of Tonali or something like that. I think he's going to be absolutely huge in the future. I think at 21 years old, relatively cheap. So yeah, I'm going to go Kepler and Thuram and then have a bit more money to give Paul Dummett a pay rise or something for the rest of the money.
Can we stick with Kepler and Thuram just because with Kepler and Thuram there is genuine links there, and obviously today Ben Jacobs said that now Liverpool have dropped out of the race for Kepler and Thuram. It doesn't say whether any other team are in for him. It looks like Romeo Lavia is the one to watch with regards to Liverpool. I think I tweeted that today and said, I think we'd all love, regardless of that, we'd all love Kepler and Thuram at Newcastle. In your opinion, Jacque, what is do you think it's likely that Newcastle could potentially put their money in and go, now that one of the bigger clubs that were linked with him are now out of the running, could Newcastle be that next one in line?
Could be, yeah. He'll definitely leave Nice. We heard that as far back as January that he'd be going. And it won't take a great amount either, sort of 40 million euros, something like that, maybe a bit higher. I think Nice won a bit of a saga, though. They want a few clubs to come in. But it was a bit of a surprise that Liverpool just backed out of it because the talks are progressing quite well there. I think there's been quite a few reporters who have linked him to Newcastle. I think we were one as well. But it's just interest. We haven't heard any more than that. We know that Nice will be looking to sell this window. And Newcastle like him, and he's relatively young. He ticks so many. I don't know if you've watched him. I haven't watched him much, but like for his height, I think he's 6'4". His dribbling ability is it's just almost bizarre to see someone so lanky. It's like Dan Burn, like Ronaldinho or something like that. It's just like really, really bizarre to see. But he's so good on the ball, technically as well. But yeah, no, I it wouldn't be like a huge surprise if Newcastle, made a proposal or at least had talks. Now Liverpool gone out of the way, because I think he was one they wanted to go to Liverpool, but now they've pulled out. Then I'm sure his agent's going to be ringing around to a lot of football clubs saying like, "Will you sign my client?" and this kind of thing. So yeah, he'd be. And I wouldn't be surprised as well if Man United come get involved in that, considering his low price. We haven't heard anything yet, but I just wouldn't be surprised if you see a link with Kepler Thuram and Man United soon.
I reckon we should. I think we should send ASM back to Nice. He's over there at the minute. I love posting videos of the place. Let's just do a swap.
ASM. I think if he's got one more season, like if it's the same point this season, like next year, I wouldn't be like, oh, should we keep him or sell him? I think injuries have played him. There's that Instagram post made me think he was going, and then there's been sounds like reports saying like he's going to go and stuff. I think probably what it is if a Newcastle get a fee on offer of 40 million quid, they'd probably go for it, but they're not going to shove him out. I would quite like him to stay because I think he can do things that most players in the world can't, and if we just get him ticking in the right direction, it can just be phenomenal for us. I really, really think that I'd really, really want him to have one blinding season with us. I think he can do it, but it's just there's something that's quite mismatch about this new Newcastle and him. And I guess it's because under Bruce, it was all about him and stuff. I'm not having a go at him, but how he's not succinct with a sort of team. It's more of like him, isn't it? As an individual rather than performing as a team. But I think injury hasn't helped as well.
We talked about that a lot, didn't we? This season, that like he's trying so hard to fit into what Eddie Howe wants, and then he's losing a bit of what he is, and it's just getting that balance. There's times it's worked, and he or else he forgets himself and goes right, and it's like, yes, we've got the real Maxi back, and then consistency on that. But
I think the interesting question I'd want to ask all three is just basically answer yes, because I put a video in our WhatsApp chat today of the most unlikeliest, weirdest unveiling of Jacque at Etihad today. I don't know if anyone else saw it. I think Jacque's nodded his head, so he looks like he's seen it as well. And it's quote that Jacque has gone to Al Etihad for 25 million from Celtic, okay? Which for me is ludicrous money, and it just goes to show the money. So I think ASM is a much better player than Jacque. So if you were to get a bid from a Saudi club for, I don't know, 35, 40 million, do you take it?
Someone asked that question, Richie, in the chat. I'll just find it. But yeah, go on. Here it is.
Go on, Jack, you answer that first, mate.
Oh, like if you said 50 million, I'd say yes. And if you said 30, I'd say no. It's right on the bit where it's not. No, I'll say no. But only just.
Pete?
Hey, it's our brothers. They're going to put 60 million in.
Yeah,
they're our brothers. They're part of us. So it's going to be a 60 million bid, and we're going to say, go and enjoy yourself. That's what it's going to be. But look, I'm joking. In all seriousness, I don't see Allan Saint-Maximin going over to Saudi. I genuinely don't. It's really interesting. There's been a number of journalists, not Jacque, but a number of other journalists over the course of this season that we've talked about that have said Allan Saint-Maximin's not an anyhow player. Allan Saint-Maximin's not an anyhow player. He's going to leave, blah, blah, blah. He's going to leave, he's going to leave, he's going to leave. Those same journalists in the last 3 weeks that I've listened to on various podcasts and various things that they've put out have said, Eddie Howe wants him to stay. It's up to Allan Saint-Maximin. I cannot believe the change in some of these journalists that were adamant that he wasn't an Eddie Howe player and he wants to leave, and are now saying that Eddie Howe wants him to stay and it's up to Allan Saint-Maximin whether he wants to leave. That mindset and that message that they're putting out there is very, very different to what they've been saying throughout the whole of this season. I personally, and I've said this to you boys before in private and on shows, I don't think Allan Saint-Maximin wants to leave. I think he loves Newcastle. I think he loves the city. I think he loves the fans. I think he's shown that. He's been open with that. I don't think anything's changed. People might have an opinion on his playing ability. That's fine. Everyone's got that opinion. But do I think that Allan Saint-Maximin wants to leave? No. And I genuinely believe that if Allan Saint-Maximin doesn't want to leave, he doesn't go. So for me, I'm fully in my mind, and it might well change. We don't know. The transfer window changes very quickly. In my mind, I'm fully expecting him to be part of this squad and part of the team for next season. And actually, I'm excited that what he could potentially give to Newcastle in a Champions League season, because I think there's a potential for him to be really, really frightening. It's just a question of him staying fit, which has always been the question. Daz, you just mentioned it a second ago. That is the big question. If he can stay fit, I genuinely believe he'll do the business. Anybody that's on social media would have seen that video that was put out, and I can't remember who put it out, so I apologize that I haven't credited them. But there was a video that was put out, and it was Allan Saint-Maximin over the course of a season when he was fit and playing, and it showed his assists that he got this season. I think it was 4 or 5, but it also showed the chances that he put on a plate for so many other players that they missed. Allan Saint-Maximin could have been sitting on 10 assists this season, and I guarantee you, if he'd have been sitting on 10 assists this season, people's opinions of Allan Saint-Maximin would have been very, very different. But let's see what happens.
It wasn't Allan Saint-Maximin that put out that video, was it?
It definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't. It was a number of other people that are very, very well known within the social media circle. I can't remember their names. I do apologize for that, but they did put a couple of videos out individually of that. I've still got it. I liked it. I retweeted it so people can go back and see it through. But I think it was really telling. I didn't even realize how much he created that wasn't yet put away. But look, it's a separate conversation. Let's see what happens. He could well go, and then that conversation.
Should we go back to a few more quick fire? We go jump in anyone here with the comment. Right, Steve Parker says, other than the talk of Darrow to Leeds, Bournemouth, not seen much other talk of outgoings. Henrik, Hayden, Fraser, Lewis. Any news on those, Jacque?
No, I haven't seen Hendrick's name for a while. Lewis as well. Yeah, no, I haven't heard much. The only outgoing I heard of was Manquillo going back to Spain, Getafe, something like that. But no, nothing on those. Lewis, that's such a shame. I don't know what's going to happen with Lewis, because there's quite a good Simon being really buzzed about that when we got him. I know we were playing under Steve Bruce in that, but I thought it could be the next big left back. It could be the next big thing, and it's just gone absolutely. But I imagine all of them will be moved on in time. I imagine Fraser will go to Scotland or something. I think the rest of them probably go to Championship, League One, that kind of thing.
There's this one here, Darlow, apparently, Bournemouth or Leeds, as what was said in the chat. He was in line to go to Borough, but Borough are now allying other alternatives on the back of that. Scott Wilson of the Echo has mentioned it. It looks like he's definitely going, and it seems to be on a permanent deal, which we've talked about before. We wanted him gone, but not on a loan. So it could well be that if he goes, it is permanent, which I think would be good for the club.
Remember when we were in the Championship and he did them 2 saves against Forest. That's one of my favourite games. The penalty saves, I think it was. But yeah, obviously getting a bit old now, isn't he? I think he's sort of 31 or something. So yeah, time to move on.
Wages as well be a factor in that signing as well. But yeah, okay, let's move on. A lot of people are going asking who's coming next after Tonali. Who's coming next? Who's coming next? Who knows who's coming next? There's Richie. You put something in our in our chat. Are you was swearing by your source there on that one?
No, I'm not doing that. We're not going to go into that because obviously. There was a few comments on social media after that show, wasn't there? But no, yeah, just there's some stuff on social media about apparently the stuff. Obviously, this might be something Jacque can check with while he's on. But there's talk that there could be a deal getting done with Livramento, and talks have progressed a bit further. But I don't know. That might be something that Jacque can check. But we'll just see. Was he mentioned a few weeks ago? It's still popping on, but going quiet again. And I did see there's a few people been putting in the chat that Southampton have signed another right back, a lad from Chelsea who's just gone on a free. Who was, so that be the replacement for Livramento? I don't know, but just see what's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I think he wants game time is the issue. It's just the game time that was on offer from Newcastle. I don't think he wanted to play second fiddle to Trippier next season. But I don't know if he can play left back as well, because I think he can play both sides.
Well, Trippier can play left back as well, can't he? So he's played there for England and stuff. So
yeah, it'd be a good signing. 20 years old, probably be England set up in a few years, I imagine. He's that good, and obviously just that injury last season's just been a bit of a knock. But he was phenomenal. Like before then, he was absolutely phenomenal. So it would be a really good signing. But yeah, just got to get the game time sorted.
That's interesting that you put that out there tonight, Richie, with regards to what you heard, because Jacque's obviously put out there that it hit the stumbling block from that perspective. The Southampton page had mentioned that, and this is from the Telegraph, that there had been a stumbling block and that they are threatening to walk away from the deal because of various different reasons. One of them, like Jacques has mentioned, that he wants to be a regular player, so that would be really interesting if he has changed tact. I'll be honest, I think he's fantastic. I'd love him in Newcastle. I would absolutely love him in Newcastle. Like you boys have just said, 20 years old.
I think it's if he wants to play right back, I think if he's going to be realistic, right, if he wants to play European football and the push of England, who's he realistically going to go and get nailed on? First team football for every single week in the top 6. There's probably no one really out there at this point. Newcastle are probably the best chance he's got because Trippier won't be played. Trippier's probably got 2 years at best, lads. Would you realistically think at the highest level? So possibly even 12 months, and then you look at Trippier where you put him back in the swap place, and Trippier becomes more of the squad fullback. A bit having a role like what Richie has at the moment. He's been a leadership from the bench and in the possibly looking to do coaching badges and stuff like that, and stay with the squad going forward after that. Realistically, you've only possibly even if they say he plays on the left or Trippier plays on the left, that could be only for 1 year. He would be the future right back for Newcastle. Do this project, and for me, it's a no-brainer for him to sign for Newcastle if I was in his shoes over possibly, what other options are there out there in the Premier League? Possibly go back to Chelsea, be behind Reiss James again, which is one of the reasons why he wanted to leave in the first place, because he's probably going to, unless Reiss James is injured, he's probably not going to get ahead of him, and that was one of the reasons why he left. But look. It is what it is. We'll see what happens over the next few days. As Jacque put out earlier this morning, the transfer window is a funny thing. 1 minute nothing's happening. It can change 24 hours later, and then once again it can go back again after 24 hours. Look, let's just see what happens. That's all we can do. As people were saying before, will everyone talk about a left back? Who's to say we don't go for Livramento at right back, and we they both can cover at left back or play left back?
It's what Mike said. Mike, when we had Mike on the channel, when the Livramento information dropped, he said that whenever Livramento was fit, Kyle Walker-Peters moved to left back, and he moved that player out because he was a specialist at right back. Who's to say, from what you were saying, Richie? I agree that who's to say that Trippier doesn't move out to left back?
See, Callum's just put in the chat there as well. Chelsea have got Malo Gusto now as well.
Yeah.
So where does he fit in if he was to go back to Chelsea? He doesn't.
He's not going back. That'd be a stupid move. If he goes back to Chelsea, he'll be signed by Chelsea, but he'll be loaned back out to another club, whether it's Southampton or somebody else. Like, I can't see him going back to Chelsea and being a first-team player. You've got Reiss James, as you've mentioned, and other players there. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Maybe a Loftus-Cheek just sitting there and then getting farmed out then when 10 years later. Good one here, a name we haven't mentioned yet. Question for you, Jacque, then. Lindstrom, he's a name that was mentioned there in the last 2 days or so. Any word on him?
I think I haven't heard anything of him. I think Germany didn't they report that Bild reported that Newcastle were interested, but I think Bild have a habit of like fanning the flames for players' agents to get moves across to the Premier League. To be honest, maybe I'm wrong. I can't say I've watched him loads or anything like that, but I wouldn't be like blown away. I'd be happy if I was Aston Villa. I'd be happy if I was Wolves, but I don't know about this guy. I mean, he's still relatively young, had a relatively good season in Frankfurt. I think got 7 assists, a couple of goals there as well, something like that. But no, it's not something I've heard. And yeah, I think, I don't think it's been mentioned elsewhere either. So yeah, no, it's basically nothing I heard. But that's, Steve's story. He did hear it. So I think what we heard that he was going to leave this summer. I think Arsenal were actually linked to him as well previously, even far back as November, but nothing came of it, probably because it's more the German side fanning the flames a little bit. But there is an expectancy, as Steve says there, that it's going to leave this summer. But I don't know, 30 million quid, something like that, I'll probably do it.
We had this in our chat. Look, Rich, I'll come to you on this. Because I don't believe you were too positive on this potential deal. Jasper Lindstrom, what do you make of this Danish international?
It just, it just screams of agent talk. This for me anyway. I know you have as well, Pete. We've watched quite a lot of the Bundesliga and stuff like that, and he's just never really. As I said before, use that analogy. He's not one of these get off your seat sort of players and stuff. It's like the Danish version of the Harvey Barnes transfer. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, nah. There's other people. Seriously, for 30 million, there's a lot of other people out there for 30 million who, not just me. I'm talking about probably every single person on the screen there, and everyone in the chat, and a lot of the Newcastle fan base would turn around and go, "I would much rather have him for 30 million." We put a few names in the chat the other day. Do you know what I mean? And we were all turned around. And every single one of those names was better than Jesper Lindstrom. You know what I mean?
They were a lot more expensive as well, though.
Not necessarily.
That's true.
Not necessarily. If you, to be fair, there's a couple. One that
happy in our chat today. I don't know who was on there.
I did. But to be fair, I didn't read the. I didn't read the point that Richie made. I thought he was on about existing PSG players. I was like,
yeah, that was quite funny. That,
but yeah. Sorry, go on, Richie.
That was one that just went like that, wasn't it, Pete?
It did, because I was at work and I was just like, I saw the message. I was like, oh yeah, what players will be with? Oh, Verratti? No, not really. Anybody else? Kimpembe? No. Donnarumma, I think he's leaving anyway. Yeah, Mbappe. Don't. Sorry, carry on.
Did you have your Yasser Al-Rumian head on there, did you?
No, I was just thinking quickly. However, if I'd have said anyone, it'd be Marquinhos, because apparently he is not being favoured at PSG. I'm going off topic here. I would love him at right centre back alongside Botman, but that's a different conversation. Sorry.
I have another one to throw us back on track. And speaking of our chat, when you put this in our chat last night, Pete, I was disgusted. Chelsea now want Franca. Why? Everyone we're talking, every Brazilian wonder kid we start talking about, they rock up and take them, and they even took as someone put us on, they took the Jamaican lad as well. Whispers that was on trial with us. They just nab everyone, and again they're hoovering up all the young talent. But well, sorry, D, he's definitely not going to Crystal Palace, but hopefully he can be persuaded to head towards. Jacque, you're on it as well.
Yeah. That's a bad guy. He tweeted out today. Chelsea looking at a £25 million deal for Mateus Franca.
They did it with Andre Santos as well. I don't know if you remember him from back in January, I think. And then they got him, and he had trouble with his passport or something like that. So it's I don't know. Chelsea just going to mad one, aren't they? Really, that's all they do.
There was talk about Angelo Gabriel as well over the weekend as well, wasn't it, Daz?
Yeah, there was another one we talked about for a while. It's sickening.
Yeah, not good. But like the one thing that we have to remember is that Chelsea have got history with Brazilian players, whether it's Kennedy, ex-Newcastle, whether it's like the likes of Andre Santos, whether it's Mateus Franca. There's a number of other players gone before, may not have been successful, but have come through from a South American point of view, that they've got history with that. And that's where we, as a club, need to build up that reputation of bringing South Americans through. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to take money, because let's face it, some of those Brazilian South American players that come through, they don't come cheap. They're expensive for their age, and sometimes players are too expensive when you're not quite sure of what their potential is going to be. So it's an interesting one, but it's disappointing because Mateus Franca in particular, Daz, remember we talked about it on our show during January when we had the bid rejected. We thought it would definitely go back and get done. And I know you were really excited about that because, some of these Brazilian players you've kept a close eye on. So it is disappointing from that perspective. But
and our scout in Brazil and South America, Foxy, will be all over those names for us. So you'll have to get us some new names, and Foxy get a whole lot of new names, and then Chelsea swoop in and add them all on us again. So we have to get them before their names get out. I think we need to do something earlier because the tend to pounce. If it's not Chelsea, Barcelona or Real Madrid swooping in.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is still loads more questions. I suppose Ged asked about Gordon as our third striker. I think we did touch on it the other day, but any more thoughts on that? Scoring a few goals in the Euros?
He's done well.
I think number 10 is the best. The best I've seen him was as a number 10. So I don't know, as a striker, I don't think he's got the physicality or the sort of positional intelligence, I suppose, to have that be instinctive and stuff. But I certainly think number 10 that's his best position.
I think what you can see off a few of the goals he scored, especially the goal at Chelsea, and you also look at the goals he scored in the Euros, it shows he's got good movement in and around the 6-yard box. So he doesn't necessarily have to, if we've got creative players out wide, as long as he knows where he is, he's good at getting himself in the right place at the right time, sort of thing. So that could be something. I suppose it follows up that number 10 role that you just said there, Jack. You know what I mean? Yeah. He doesn't necessarily need to be the front focal point, but he can be in and around that 6 to 12 yards in front of goal. And obviously, if he gets in those positions, he delivers the goods.
Yeah.
I have a question, but I really need to ring someone on Merseyside first. Let me get the question first. Where is it? Yeah, question for the lads. Would you let Wilson go? But now ringing Merseyside. Hello, Chris. Chris, would you let Wilson go?
Evening, boys. How are we?
Evening.
All good, Chris.
All right. Great to have you on the show.
Still there? Sorry, did I freeze? Sorry.
No, you're all good. You're all good, Chris.
How you doing, Jack? You okay?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good.
Okay.
So, Chris, are Everton going to bid for Wilson?
I don't think he will. I'll tell you what, though, if I was the chairman, if I was Bill Kenwright or Mashiri, I'd definitely be bidding for Wilson. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Did you guys see him
getting Rodrigo?
Did you see him training today, Wilson? So there's been a lot of talk about Maxi doing his training, blah blah blah. There's been a number of other players. Wilson today was doing his running as well. I think with his little girl up and down, similar to Saint-Maximin. He looked like he's putting the hard yards in for this season.
Yeah, big season.
Really? Surely for Newcastle.
Yeah, big season for him, isn't it? Big season because obviously I think everyone knows that like Isak's probably going to be the number one. And unless Eddie Howe changes the system for him, Wilson's going to find himself having to try and get into the team. So it's a massive season for him. When his chance comes, he'll want to do what he did at the back end of the season, won't he? And bang the goals in and make himself undroppable. I'm assuming. So that's probably what he's going to be doing.
Definitely. Just a reminder, over 400 in the chat. Make sure you click that like and subscribe. Daz has been spot on with the thanks and the subscribe. But there we go.
There it is.
There he is.
He's back.
He's doing the Chris Hall. He's on the button as always with this. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we've got, I think at this point now, I think we're less than 200 away from 6K. We're so close. Come and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and get us to that 6K as soon as possible. And then we'll be on the march to 8K. I imagine that'll be the next target. But Daz, I want to come to you. We haven't talked about this, but you know what I'm coming for.
No, I don't.
Republic
yes.
Under 17 international. Romeo Akachuwu has been linked with Newcastle United from various different sources over the last 24 hours, but also not one but two. We've got Kevin Zeffi from Inter Milan. What do you make from that perspective of these Irish players being linked with Newcastle? Romeo Akachuwu apparently is going to be visiting Newcastle and having a look at their facilities within the next day or two.
No, well, I think it's great that some Irish talent are getting a look in, and as Dan Ashford tries to build up the youth teams in the academies. I don't know anything about the first guy, to tell you the truth, but yeah, there's a few clubs looking at him. Of course, we have my buddy from Goncalo United already on the books at Newcastle, and the second guy there, Kevin Zaffini. Yeah, there's been a little bit of talk with him. He's at Inter, and actually shout out to the Irish Mags group that I'm in as well. And one of the lads in that group has played against him at underage level. So if that one was to come true, I'll be putting in a little request to see if you want to come on the show and tell us a little about him. I played, I think when he played against, he scored a few goals. So interesting talent he is. There is a nice little few YouTube clips of the guy at Inter. Right, he looks decent. But yeah, I don't know an awful lot about him, Pete, to tell you the truth. But bring it on.
I just wanted to get the fact that we've got some Irish boys linked with the club, and it's great for you because obviously you being in that neck of the woods, it's great to have some representatives potentially representing Newcastle along with Alex Murphy as well. So great stuff there.
Actually, Kevin, I think it was the Kevin guy. His agent is Stephen Carr. Ex-Spurs and ex-Newcastle, you know, wouldn't have been one of my favorite players for Newcastle, Stephen Carr, but he was brilliant for Spurs back in the day. So it's a nice little interesting little blast from the past there.
Interesting. What have we got? What have we got for Jacques? I know we've got a little bit of time left before we wrap up.
Yeah, there was one or two more. There was Bella Ketchup. As I'm probably saying his name, Bella Ketchup. Any talk of him from Southampton, Jack?
I haven't heard anything, but I imagine because his club's been relegated, his agent will probably be putting a load of stuff out there and offering him to clubs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him linked. Good player though, wouldn't mind him. I think he's a decent player. But no, nothing my end on him, unfortunately. I think if we go to like a mid-table Premier League side, would be my guess anyway.
Cool. Interesting.
One that I know Pete and Richie like, Rico Henry. Any word on him?
The Man City player.
No, Brentford.
Brentford.
Oh, Rico Henry. No, I'm nothing on Rico Henry either. Unfortunately, I think a bit rubbish. But...
I wouldn't mind Rico Lewis. He'd be decent.
Rico Lewis.
I don't think City would let him go, would they?
No, that's what I thought. Like, no chance. Yeah.
And question from the GOAT. Question for Jacque. Is there anything in the Theo Hernandez talk? If you ask me, 4 weeks impossible, but since the Tonali signing, I can no longer rule anything out.
Nothing I've heard, but that would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it, if we got him? I don't know what his contract's like. You know, a lot of these ones you can just say if you see a link with a new link to Newcastle, just have a look at their contract. If it's above 200,000 a week, it's not going to happen at this point anyway. It's going to be organic growth. So I don't know what he's on at the moment. I don't know what his contract's like. I can't see it, to be honest. I'd love it, but I can't see it.
Cool.
Jack, just to jump in once. I don't know whether you've already spoken about this, but you know the Tonali signing. Do you think we can expect another Italian player, not necessarily Italian, but certainly a player coming from Serie A to kind of help Tonali settle? Do you think that's something that you could see, Jack? Or
I don't think that. I was asked a similar question. I was asked if there's another Italian player that could come in, but no, I don't think so. I don't think they'd sort of sign another player just to sort of alleviate. But he would. I don't know if he can talk English. I'm not sure. I mean,
he can.
He can. Okay. Well, I think that goes a long way, really. But I understand it might be a bit of a culture shock coming from Milan. It's quite interesting to know that we've got a line to Milan, though. You know, our clubs can forge relationships as well from doing transfers. I mean, look at 5 years ago, Southampton, Liverpool. It's not quite the same, but nothing at the moment on that front. I don't know who'd be in Serie A that really tickle our fancy. Really,
I think it would be a fantastic link. It goes to Milan as well. It would fit in with the position we need, and ticks a lot of boxes. Would be Tomori.
Yeah, he'd be mint, wouldn't he? He'd be really, really good. Probably costs too much money, though, I reckon. And Barella was linked as well, I suppose, but we've got Tonali now. But yeah, he'd be really good. I don't know why Chelsea sold him. Maybe Tammy Abraham as well.
You know, the shocking thing is that there's a swap deal with McKennie, who was on loan at Leeds, and Kalulu at AC Milan. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Yeah. How are Juventus getting Kalulu, who's been unreal for AC Milan, and getting McKennie, who's been shocking at Leeds for a swap deal? Like, what the hell is going on in football transfers right now? But that's genuinely a deal that's meant to be happening. Kalulu, although France are out, Kalulu was brilliant for them in the 21s, and he's been great for AC Milan as well. That's for sure.
One that has divided opinion, Chantel brings up. Would you lads take Sancho as he's up for sale from Man United? I think they're looking for about 45 million. Now, we did talk about him. He was brilliant at Dortmund, but he's on massive wages at Man United. He does need something different, though, to kickstart him. Maybe Eddie would be the man to do that, but wages, I think, will rule him out.
I think it'd be really. I think the trouble with him is that his lifestyle's not conducive to a Premier League player. I'd say that's been the issue with him. So it's an argument whether that could be under a different coach. That could be or maybe the coach like Eddie Howe wouldn't be interested in someone of that character. Really, it's quite tremendous how much he's plummeted at Man United, and I don't know where he'd go, but. I think it was mentioned earlier about him, and I agree. Like, if he was signed, I'd be pretty delighted, and it does give you a bit more of what could happen here, rather than Harvey Barnes, which will be like a 7 out of 10 signing. Sancho, when he was at Dortmund, I thought that could be a future Ballon d'Or winner. I seriously thought that, but last 2 years have just been dreadful, and I think it's his, just diet and everything else really that hasn't really been with it. So yeah, but I wouldn't mind it.
Well, shout out to Chris Shield, just catching up. Just want to say huge thanks for Loaded Lads for the continued support of Concert Reserves, the team we support, of course. And plus a big thanks to Richie, our own Richie Story there, for popping up at our presentation evening. And sorry, were you handing out the trophies, Richie?
A long story, but yes, I went up on Saturday night.
Nice one. You have to tell us more about that later on. Nice one. What else do I want to say here? Yeah, Alan Thompson mentions this about lads from Sky Sports. They've said we have a net spend of 304 million, and we've only received 50 million. I guess the Chris Wood money. Did we give Shelby away for free? Now that's something I said when Shelby left, but no one would believe me that we let him go on the free. But I don't know what the how that deal worked out. Interesting. Also,
I mean, Shelby was on 80 grand a week, wasn't he? So, and apparently he got a pay rise, and now Forest are desperate to get rid of him by all accounts. So, you could say it was a good move from us at the time. I'll be honest, it didn't feel like a good move because we were short in midfield as it was, and then Shelby come back and we were like, oh great, we got Shelby back, and then Shelby went, and then we were like, hang on, we needed a central midfielder before Shelby went, and now we kind of felt like we needed 2 central midfielders. So I think that's why some of us are kind of we've brought in Tonali, brilliant, and then there's some of us are saying maybe a number 6, an attacking midfielder. Obviously we were linked with Maddison's obviously. So I feel like there is another central midfielder in there somewhere. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. But
yeah, I think Shelby, Forest fans say he out of all the signings they made, he's been their worst one. Like over the past year, he was absolutely dreadful on and off the pitch as well. I don't know because he wasn't bad for us. I don't think the start of the year he wasn't amazing, but I'm surprised he did that poorly, to be honest, at Forest. But there you go.
But he fell out with the manager, didn't he?
He fell out of Steve Cooper. It didn't help. Yeah,
that was the big reason. Like I think when he came in, he did okay. But the fact that he fell out with the manager was. Yeah.
And Pete, you'll remember because we were speaking about it at the start of the season, weren't we? That in the pre-season, Shelby was flying. Shelby looked brilliant. He looked as fit as he's ever looked. Yeah. And we were all saying, he's going to start. Then he got that horrible injury. And then Sean Longstaff come in and then had the season that he had. But
I was on holiday at the time. Was it against Benfica that he got his hamstring?
Yeah. And then it was only 2 games away, wasn't he, from getting like contract extension and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But lads, I think there's a topic here that you want to talk about. I think it's Jonas Hoffmann on the move to Bayer Leverkusen. Diaby?
Is it a breaking news? Yeah, I'm just pointing it out.
Well, apparently, Bayer Leverkusen have met the release clause on Hoffmann's contract, which is only €10 million to go. So it looks like he plays on the right hand side of the 3. So when you start getting links like that and replace, you start to think, could somebody be on the way out? So obviously link is there as Diaby, and obviously we have been linked with them. Obviously, the conversation I was actually alluding to in our chat today, Pete, was regarding the PSG. Was obviously we know PSG have got an option to possibly bring him back. So look, I think it's one of those watch this space. The reason why we say watch this space is because we know that if Newcastle really, really want to play, then they'll wait until whatever. Obviously, now they've made quite a lot of effort to get him this time last year. Obviously, we didn't have, he was a bit sceptical because we didn't have the Champions League football and we were still at the start of the process on the project. So it didn't rest in 12 months on that we can tick a lot of the boxes that he's looking for. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen had a nightmare start the season, missed out on Champions League football for next season. So it seems one that we could possibly get done if we still think he's the right person to go forward on the project.
Definitely, and it was Soare, Germany mentioned that they reacted to this. Excuse me, what? Jonas Hoffman is on the move to Bayer Leverkusen. Someone else, I didn't put this in a tweet. Someone else mentioned, is this a likely deal? And they said, yes, if Diaby leaves. So that's then an interesting conversation. And what you put out there as well, I think you put on our chat, Richie. Florian Plettenberg is said is on the verge of joining Bayer Leverkusen. So therefore, could this mean that Diaby is leaving? Who knows? It's one of them that we have to keep an eye out on and see how that transpires. But look, there's no doubt that if any of you in the chat have followed Loaded Mag NUFC, that we've talked about Moussa Diaby for probably about a year now as a potential option for Newcastle United, and he would be a great option. And we've talked about it tonight on the show. We said
He's there as well. There he is.
But there he is. There. We talked about consistency. We talked about goals. We talked about assists. We talked about making the transition to that next level in terms of players that we're recruiting. Moussa Diaby is that guy. And look, we're not saying he's going to come into Newcastle. We're not saying that. We hope that that's the case. But certainly this news tonight that's coming out, it does intrigue us. And I'm sure everyone in the chat, and I'm sure we will keep a close eye on how that thing transpires, because if we were to get a player of that level, and you're sitting there going into the USA tour, or you're going into the start of the season with Sandro Tonali and Moussa Diaby in your team, you're going into the season a hell of a lot stronger than what you finished. And we've already finished in the Champions League position. So
I think Leverkusen's a good club to be watching this summer window, because they've got a lot of young stars in that squad. As we've chatted numerous times, there's probably about 3 or 4 really, really good players who could walk into the Newcastle squad hands down. And you've got to bear in mind that they haven't got Champions League football anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting.
There's a clue, Richie. It's a clue there.
Twist of the chair.
Do you want to just for the next fully loaded transfer show, Daz? You just want to put all Leverkusen players around you?
Yeah, I could
any one of them.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. But,
there you go.
I don't know how we did that. It's like magic, but yeah, there we go. There are lots of players there available. But look, guys, I think it's about that time. Jacques has been amazing joining us for nearly 2 hours. We've got over 400 in the chat joining us for the vast majority of the night. I don't know if you want to take us home, Daz, or is there one last question to see us out? I don't know.
Oh, yes. I'll actually, you guys have a look for the questions. I'll do the sponsors. Is there any one last question? But yeah, shout out to, and I'll give you that last comment there, to H2O Bathroom Design Co. The Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro and Botch bathroomware. Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, run by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate, Gateshead. And yeah, here's some of the fabulous bathrooms that are on offer down that showroom, and they're all constantly changing them, so check that out. Also, shout out to the radiatorshed.com as we put Chris and Jacque in jail. Yeah, everyone knows at this stage that what is available there from Russ, all the class radiators in multiple different colors, different styles. Again, at Russ is a nice showroom. Go check that out with Russ and mention Loaded, and you'll get a discount as well. So not so bad. Radiatorshed.com. That I think is it for the sponsors at the moment. May have a new sponsor coming soon, but we're still sorting that out. We won't say we'll reveal that on the show when it's all done and dusted. It's not over the line yet. But yeah, I think we'll be back again on Thursday, Pete. If not before it, for another fully loaded transfer show.
We do. I'm going to talk to you boys after the show about who we've got on. Yeah. We've got someone confirmed, and a new guest to the channel. It should be an interesting one, a different type of discussion. So yeah, for all you that are in the chat, you have to wait to see who we tweet out on Thursday morning.
Unfortunately, I don't know, so I can't ruin it for everyone. I genuinely don't know.
That's why you don't know. That's why you don't know.
Ben Jacobs. It's Ben Jacobs. No, I'm good. He's not. Ben Jacobs, friend of the channel, but no, it's a different guest on the show. Brilliant stuff. But look, first and foremost, Jack, absolutely spot on. Great guest.
Cheers, Jack.
We made it for a show. Honestly, absolutely superb with your opinions and your news with regards to Newcastle United transfers. Be a pleasure to have you on again later on in the window if you're free and available.
I am, yeah, certainly. Be around.
Cool.
Nice one.
Thanks,
You must hide away then for a couple of months, Jack. It's just a busy time, all the transfer and hide away for. Actually, we must point people towards your YouTube channel because you're not far away from 1K subs, and Jack's channel. It's in the link in the description of you on this channel. So if you click on the hyperlink, it'll take you into Jack's channel and hit that subscribe button. But tell us more about that, Jack. Where people can find you.
Yeah, on YouTube, it's on the description there. I'm just over 900 followers. I'm trying to do more. I think past the window, we're doing a lot more videos in there regularly as well. That's the intent because I've got nothing to do in between transfer windows really, so I have to sort of make work for myself. And then Twitter is JAC_Talbot, which I aggregate stories and put my own stories out there, and a lot of Newcastle stuff as well because I'm a fan of Newcastle. So yeah.
Cool.
Look, we can get him. We can get him to 1,000 subscribers tonight. Come on,
Yeah.
We've got 350 right now. We have 400 plus before that. Let's get him to 1,000 tonight. Let's get Jack. At 1,000 tonight. There you go. It's in the comments. Come on, let's make it happen, people. Let's get him up there. Great content, great guy. Newcastle United follower. It just makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do it. Do the right thing. Right. I think we're probably going to leave it there, lads. Are we?
We are. I think we had a discussion point that we were talking in the private chat. Rishi, I think we'll leave that for Thursday because I think it's a good talk.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we'll get into that one. We'll make that one of the first conversations. But Daz,
no, we won't. Hopefully, we'll have some fantastic transfer news to talk about instead. Like that's actually happening, not just rumors or links, or actual business.
Who's to say that that's not the business that we're talking about?
It could be. You never know. You never know.
Who knows? But yeah, of course. Let's. Oh, hold on. Lisa's put in the chat. We forgot something. Are we doing it tonight? Or are we doing it Thursday?
I always forget.
I thought it was Thursdays.
Thursdays, don't we?
Yeah,
I mightn't be here on Thursday. That's right. Look, we'll do a quick draw. Look, and I have the wheel ready to go. Hopefully, it's still there. Let's do it. Spinning wheel. You're in for a treat, Jack. And look, it's got some colors, different colors, and it's got the loaded logo in there now as well.
Wow.
Okay. Confirm you can see it. Yeah.
Yes, we can see it. We can see it.
Let's spin that wheel. Best of luck, everyone. Here we go.
For the £75 gift voucher, everyone.
Carl T.
Carl T.
Carl T. Love it.
Congratulations, Carl, on your win.
I think the bear needs to get a new strip for this season. I think he got the other present last time, didn't he?
How lucky is he?
I know.
That's true. Yeah, to be fair, Yano's right in the chat. He said, "Good job you're here, Lisa." Yeah, Lisa, you reminded us. Otherwise,
to be fair, Pete, we did say it was usually a Thursday night that we usually did the membership course. So.
I did put it in the tweet that I was going to do tonight because I might only jump on the end on the Thursday show because I'm on leave then for a while.
It's nice to know the cat doesn't trust the mice while he's away.
but equally though, this goes back to the point that we've all mentioned, is that we're so fixated on transfers that we forget the other side of the channel with regards to the draws and the questions.
Hit the like button, everything.
The like, subscribe. We just focus on all the talk about transfers that we forget everything else. So this is what we do. But look, Mark Taylor's in the chat. Great to have you in there. Big uploaded. Great to have you on there. Congratulations, Carl. But if you're not subscribed to this channel, if you haven't liked this show tonight, you're doing something wrong. Click the like, click the subscribe. We are less than 200 away from 6K. Let's get us there as soon as possible. We are on the march. Loaded Mag NUFC. We are definitely not messing around, that's for sure. Daz, take us home, my friend.
Guess one thing left to say. How'd you like that?
How you like